Welcome in, Falcons fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for more Atlanta Falcons content. And the Atlanta Falcons 2-0 in primetime this year. The defense shows out once again, and Bijan and Drake show why they're some of the best players in the league as the Falcons beat the Bills at the Benz 24-14. We're going to have a full recap and my thoughts on that game, which I did go attend in person. I was in the building for that game, so was able to kind of see it live and everything like that, and from what I saw and everything. But obviously we watched the game afterwards just from a TV perspective, and just also in case I missed some stuff too. So definitely have a bunch of things to talk about today as the Falcons now move to 3-2 on the season and keep pace with Tampa Bay, who looks like a world beater right now in the NFL. But like I said, they have one loss. We have two losses, so it's not over yet, and it's still early in the season. So we're going to talk about that today. I appreciate all of you tuning in for another episode for sure. If you enjoyed the episode, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below about anything I talk about that you guys want to comment on or want to give your thoughts about. So always love open rooms of communication, whatever you guys want to say. Maybe I missed on something, because it happens. We talk about a lot of different things, and then you miss something, or you miss a nugget or something. So, definitely always appreciate you guys' input into the conversation as well. So, and also follow me on Twitter at Bryce_2K for all my latest tweets on the team, and just if you want to interact with me there as well. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So before the season, I think a lot of people viewed this game as a loss for the Falcons. I think a lot of people viewed this game as like Bills are like powerhouse Super Bowl contender. We don't even know if we're good. We think we'll be good, but we don't know if we're that good. And so this was a game where I think a lot of people were like, ooh. And then I think after the first 4 weeks of the season, people were still like, ooh, because it's like, can we beat this team? Can we beat Josh Allen? What will this team be in week 6, right? Coming out of the bye. And they responded with a resounding answer, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They really came to play for the second time in primetime. You do realize the Falcons defense has been primetime twice, and they've had their best games. The brights get lightest, and this defense takes another step. And that just goes to the work of Jeff Ulbrich. You got to give credit there first to start. He has elevated everyone on this defense. That was the biggest issue I had with Jimmy Lake. Let's go through the timeline for a little bit. Ryan Nielsen comes in. Defense elevates a little bit. Obviously, they had their games where they didn't play well, but you saw the defense. Oh, we're good. We're top 10, top 15. Like, yeah, like there's something here. Guys Caden was good that year. Like, you were like, all right, yeah, And then we brought in Jimmy Lake, and everybody regressed. Everybody looked bad outside of Jesse Bates. Everybody looked bad, and Terrell was okay too. Like, but you knew Jimmy Lake was not a good corner, because I'm like, if everybody on the defense is regressing, that's a coaching problem. That's not a player problem. That's a coaching problem, because they could not get after the passer. They couldn't defend. They couldn't stop the run. Like, they couldn't do anything. And you're just like, what in the world is going on? Like, because here's the thing. A lot of the people who are playing this year played last year. Obviously, there's some changes, of course, but like, guys are just playing better. Plus, some of the additions are playing better. And guys who we signed this year weren't even viewed as the player they are now, like Divine Diablo. A lot of people just find, when we signed him, some people thought he was a special teams guy, a spot starter. We didn't know he was going to be probably our best linebacker, and that's not a bad thing. So, you go to Ulbrich. Like I said, he's just elevated Zach Harrison, who was a beast in that game. James Pierce Jr., Jalen Walker, they're seeing more snaps. Rook Ororo, we know what he's done and the pressure he's created from inside and the interior. Brandon Dorless, as well. And then you got a vet like, Floyd, who, he knows how to play the game. He's a big part of what they're trying to do. It just, everybody across the board, it just feels like everybody's game has lifted. Caden looks better. Divine's been great. Xavier Watts has been great. AJ, when he's been healthy, he's been good. D. Alford, who I'll get to in a minute, who has just really elevated himself in the roles that he has gotten and the opportunities he has gotten. And, if you're saying anybody on this defense is regress, you're saying it's Jesse Bates, but it's not really like he's bad. I don't think Jesse Bates has been bad. I just think He hasn't made the Jesse Bates play that we're accustomed to seeing. And then he's also been like, there's been some plays he's being beat on. But like, I don't think anybody's sitting here like, oh my God, Jesse Bates is a bad player now. Like, I don't think that's it at all. And I think also with having a guy like Xavier Watts, I'm sure what he's been asked to do compared to previous years has changed a little bit. But overall, I mean, Jeff Ulbrich has gotten this defense to a point where they still haven't led a team in the first half this year over 10 points. Bills only scored 7 in the first half. So, like, they come out in games and they pretty much put the offense in a great position to be at least leading or tying or whatever after the first half because they're not letting a team just run it up on them first. And that just shows that literally the Bills scored on the first drive of the game and then the first drive of the second half. Starting a game, you could get a team, you have an opening script, whatever. When it actually gets down to, okay, let's just call and play, Jeff Ulbrich was able to shut down Buffalo. The pass rush, that was another thing as we get into the defense. The pass rush, I think people feel like has been spotty at times. You have the 6-sack game in Minnesota. You get like a sack here, 2 sacks here. Well, where's this pass rush? Where's this pass rush? You see that on social media. Where's this pass rush? Listen, every team has different offensive lines, different things. Some weeks you have a better pass rush than others. And again, in prime time, the defense comes to play. In 2 primetimes game this year, the Falcons have 10 sacks. I think they have 18 on the season. So clearly, again, when the brights become the brightest, that pass rush steps up. And you're seeing it from multiple people. The Falcons so far have not had that one dominating pass rusher, right? But we think there's like a couple of guys who maybe could become that. But right now, it's definitely by committee. And that sometimes can be a greater strength than just having one person where, if we can lock down this person, we probably can hold up against the rest of their line. When everybody can get pressure, it's like, brother, we can't focus on anybody. Everybody just got to do their job and hold up. And so they were able to get after it, get after Josh Allen, and create havoc for a guy who, again, people think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Here's a stat. So there's this new, analytical stat named Havoc. It's a Havoc for top defenses in the league, which is the percentage of plays the defense gets a pressure, a tackle for a loss, a forced fumble, an interception, or a pass breakup. Here are the top 4 teams. Broncos are first. Buccaneers are second. Third is the Steelers. Fourth is the Falcons, which means the percentage of plays that they get, one of the things I just mentioned, they do it at a 40%, literally 41% rate. What does that tell you? The Falcons are doing something positive almost 50% of plays. That just shows you where they are. They're first in total defense still, which I know when some people saw that number that the Falcons were first in total defense, they were like, are we actually that good? Is that a real number? Because, like, again, if you're a Falcons fan, you have yet to have a defense like that in years, decade even. So, like, the fact that we're, like, so high up is like, is that real? Well, Monday Night Football, you saw it was real. The Falcons defense on Monday Night Football overall had 4 sacks, 2 interceptions. Bills only converted 2 out of 9 third down conversions, and obviously only allowed 14 points. The Falcons pass rush also generated with a 44% pressure rate against Josh Allen. That's the highest pressure rate against Josh Allen this season, and the only game in which he's faced more than 30% of pressure most of his dropbacks. So clearly, this was new for Josh Allen. He wasn't facing this type of pressure from a lot of the other games he's played in, and the Falcons generated that tonight. And the thing is that what the Falcons did in this game defensively was similar to what they did in the Minnesota game. They did a lot of 5-man pressures. I've noticed against certain teams, and this is something they like doing, a lot of 5-2 fronts, or like 5-1 almost, I like to say, because they'll use Caden as that 5th person, where they'll just go like, okay, we're gonna have 5 people going after the passer, and you're gonna have 5 blockers. And they're kind of playing the numbers. Someone's gonna win their matchup, so someone's getting through, and so you're gonna have pressure. Can you make a quick enough decision against our secondary to counter that? Because obviously when you have that type of pressure coming, there's one less person in the secondary. And then sometimes they'll use five-man pressure, bring a guy back, so it's still a 4-man pressure, where it's like you don't know who's coming. Caton could come, but Caton may be coming and they might drop a defensive end back in coverage. And the one thing I've seen analysts say, and this is very true about the Falcons defense, sometimes when you play those elite quarterbacks like a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson, a Patrick Mahomes, you kind of wait to see what they do, and then you try to respond to that. Jeff Ulbrich has told the defense, we're going to attack them. We're going to go after them and then make them respond to us. And I think that's something that you don't actually see a lot of defenses do against elite quarterbacks. And I think when that, and because a lot of the time, it's about knowing their offense. The Bills' offense, okay, what is the weakness of their team? They don't have the strongest wide receiving core, right? So if that's the case, I think our secondary can hold up long enough where we can send some pressures. We can send 5-man pressures. And then after that, it gives us a better chance to contain Josh Allen, keep him in the pocket, but also get pressure and even sacks. And then if he does somehow, he's big, strong guy, can make throws. Obviously, we saw some crazy throws last night from him where he can, get out of it. Maybe we can force him into a mistake, which they did twice. And so Jeff Ulbrich, like I said, has done a fantastic job with this defense. D. Alford, I want to give love to him because I remember what people were saying. People felt like D. Alford should have not made this team. People felt we're out on D. Alford after last year. They felt like D. Alford was like, he really had one bad year, which was last year. He had one really bad year, right? Struggled. That also could be looked at as a Jimmy Lake. Listen, we can go back to Jimmy Lake and just say he's a terrible defensive coordinator, right? But people were like, he's cooked, right? Because, listen, NFL is a tough league, bro. You'll be good for 2 years. You struggle for 1 year, everybody wants you cut. D. Alford lost his job to Billy Bowman. But he's good reserve depth. And I think people sometimes don't understand, like, your 4th, 5th corner are not going to be your elite corners, bro. Like, D. Alford is still good enough to be on a football team. But the fact that with the injuries we've had, he has stepped up and played admirable. And Monday night was his best game back in the original position that he was playing for all these years, nickel. I mean, this is the D. Alford that we thought we had the first couple of years he played. This was the D. Alford that people fell in love with. This was the person that people said D. Alford is a solid corner. And now you see he has the flexibility to play inside and outside. And I think that if you're the Falcons, it gives you confidence because now you don't have to rush back Billy Bowman, who's working through knee and hamstring injuries right now. You said, listen, if D plays like that, why do we need to rush him back? And then secondly, it also gives you more flexibility in terms of snaps. Like, D. Alford deserves to get snaps even when Billy Bowman's back. And now you can kind of, when you play some dime defense or, you can, like, depending on, like, matchups, maybe you'll have Billy out there for one, D out there for another. Like, I think that in and of itself gives just like confidence within that room. And just really big on him to be able to bounce back the way he has, to be what he's done, and to, like I said, make plays the way you've been wanting this Falcons defense to make plays for such a long time. Like, really. D. Alford had 6 tackles, which led the team. 1 sack, because he's a part of that sack on Josh Allen. Tackle for loss, 3 pass breakups would also led the team, and an interception. That was the night D. Alford had. So big shout out to D. Alford. Played very well. Defense played very well. Jeff Ulbrich clearly has really formed an identity for this defense. They're going to get after you. They're going to attack you. How will you respond to the Falcons punching first defensively? And that's something you haven't been able to say about this defense for a very long time as a Falcons fan. The defense was always getting punched, and then you just hope they could survive. Now Jeff Ulbrich has changed the attitude. He has changed the feeling in that room. And now they're like, we will go after your offense and see if we can disrupt you from doing what you want to do. And how will you respond to us disrupting you? That's what the great defenses do. And I'm not going to say the Falcons are an elite defense yet. I won't say it, even though it's easy to say it. But they definitely are a really good defense. And with the offense sometimes going through their highs and lows, that sometimes can be the best thing that can happen for this team. And it gives the offense more time to put together. And as they've said, Falcons haven't even played a complete game in all three phases. So I want to give love to the defense to start that off. Now let's go over to the offensive side of the ball. So obviously, offensively, I mean, you know what time it was. It was Bijan Robinson, Drake London time. First half especially, they both destroyed the Bills. Like, that's just as simple as I can put it to you. They destroyed the Bills. Drake London lighting them up. Almost had that touchdown at the end of the half. Sucks he stepped out of the one, but he lit him up. Bijan Robinson, 81-yard touchdown. I think it's the longest touchdown of the year for a running back this season. Second longest in Falcons history. So, I mean, Bijan, incredible. Over 250 freaking yards and the total in the game. Like, Bijan is incredible, bro. You know, Raheem calls him the best player in football. And it's like, sorry, not 250. I think he had 250 yards total in terms of scrimmage yards because he had 68 receiving yards in the game. But he had 238 yards on the ground. Wait, sorry. Miscorrection. I'm reading everything wrong. Bijan had 70 yards rushing, 238 total because he had 68 receiving. So he had 238 yards total in the game, rushing and receiving, and a touchdown. And, I mean, listen, we've been talking about for years with Bijan, have we used Bijan to the best of his abilities? Have we maximized his potential? That was obviously a big issue under the Arthur Smith era. Are we using Bijan to the best of his abilities? Are we utilizing him correctly? Listen, if there's one thing about Zach Robinson you can say he's done this year, he's utilized Bijan Robinson. Bijan is having a legendary year. He's having a year like the great Thurman Thomas had back in 1991 with the Buffalo Bills. If you are a fan of that time and you are, I guess, an old head from that time, you know how good Thurman Thomas was during that year for that Buffalo team. And I believe he won MVP that year. So Bijan right now is having a tremendous year. He should maybe be in MVP conversations the way he's playing. And he has just been incredible for this team. And the team's been leaning on Bijan. They said, listen, he's an elite player. Lean on him. Bijan wants the ball. He wants to be able to make plays for this team. So he has been great. And like I said, Drake London kind of had that slow start to start the year. Last two games really picked it up. He started like the Drake London that people think he can be. And I remember people were always saying, did we make the right pick? Should we have gotten another receiver? Should we have gotten Garrett Wilson? Should we have gotten somebody else? Drake London. I feel like the type of player Drake London is, he is perfect for what they want. Yes, of course, yeah, you want the big, deep play, Jamar Chase guy. Sure. But the fact that Drake London could just route you to death, 15, 20-yard in, outs, curls, whatever, it just, his radius, his catch radius, it just makes him a receiver's best friend. And it makes total sense why Terrell McMillan in Carolina is having a lot of success, because that big receiver he could be a quarterback's best friend because you throw it all over the yard. And it's not from he can go 80 yards. It's, I can throw it high or a little bit to the side. And he's usually bigger than most people who's covering him. So he should be able to be in great position most of the time to make that play. So they both were excellent last night. Obviously, Penix was really good in the first half. I'll get into his second half in a minute, and then also the discourse surrounding Penix again with that. Obviously, some injury news. Jake Matthews had an ankle injury in that game. I legitimately did not know Matthews was injured. I literally did not. It's funny because I think he finished the first half, I believe. And then the second half, I didn't notice that we had a new left tackle in the game till the Falcons were driving towards me. And I'm like, wait, that's not Jake Matthews. And I was like, because I haven't been checking my phone while I was watching the game. So I didn't know Jake Matthews was hurt. And I was like, oh, we're down another tackle. Okay. And I don't know how much that impacted the second half game plan. I've noticed sometimes when we have injuries, I feel like Zach Robinson can sometimes try to overthink how he needs to handle that. But obviously Raheem came out and was kind of like, hey, like, I feel good about where he is. He's day to day. Usually they'll say day to day and they're out for 2-3 weeks, man. Like, I don't know if he's truly day to day or he's out for a couple weeks. They just don't want to say it. But obviously, if you're the Falcons, that's not ideal because you're already down Caleb McGarry and Storm Norton, and now you're down Jake Matthews. So you're getting to now the guys that you've picked up. Jarrell, I think, performed in this place, and Elijah Wilkerson. And then I think the guy who I think we picked up from the Jets as well would be our next tackle option. So I don't know if the Falcons are going to go sign a tackle this week or we're going to get an update on Storm Norton this week. That's something that, because we're entering, I think, the 8th week after his surgery, which is what he was projected 6 to 8. So I'm going to be curious to see if we get any updates on that end, because that could be a storyline to keep an eye on as we move forward, is that tackle position. But yeah, so let me get into Penix, because some people are trying to like, oh, I don't know about Penix. I don't know if Penix can be the guy. I don't know. He's too inconsistent and da-da-da-da. Listen, and this is something that has been an issue in this league, and I've talked about it just talking about football in general on these shows. The quarterback development in today's league is different. We want to see a quarterback be elite by game 4, or else we're out. Penix has been, to me, average to above average this season, which isn't bad. I want to specify it's not bad, because he is essentially in his rookie year, playing his 8th game. Penix has only had one, oh my God, awful from start to finish game, which was the Panthers game, which everybody had a bad game that game. And I think some people look at the numbers. Well, he hasn't thrown for that many touchdowns and things like that, as a criticism against him. And I'm like, and I literally, my guy Trey Sean said this. He said, literally, he hasn't turned the ball over. Like this, did he have a couple throws yesterday that could have been picks? Absolutely. And he needs to work on not throwing those. That's fine, but that's part of the growing process. That's a part of the learning process. Some people are saying, well, he's 25. I mean, brother, the NFL is the NFL. It don't matter you 20, 25, brother. It's the NFL. It's like we're trying to find any excuse we can to justify or to go after Penix and say why he's not a good quarterback. And it's like, brother, Penix, I think, like any quarterback that you develop, you just want him to not make the major mistake, develop, get better, and then you hope that consistency comes with that, and his ceiling rises across as that time goes on. I think the issue is because we're under pressure to win. Like I always say in those situations, you want the quarterback to be better faster because you're like, we're trying to win. But I think the Falcons right now, with the way the team is built, has a formula in place where they can rely on Drake and they can rely on Bijan and they can rely on that defense. And that may be good enough to still get them to win games while Penix kind of goes on. Because like I said, realistically, Penix, we shouldn't be actively sitting here saying, Penix, go win me this game by throwing for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. If we're like, Penix, win me this game by going 250 and 2 touchdowns, that I think with the way our team is built will win us a lot of games. And I think we got to understand what the expectation is there. Because there's no reason to sit here and be like, I just don't know if Penix can be the guy. Like, brother, are we going to go do this with every young quarterback we draft? Well, if they're not lining up by game 6, I would be more concerned if we're getting into his second full year as the starter and he's still making a lot of this. And listen, there's going to be some things that quarterbacks do their entire career that you'll never like. Like, trust me, there's still stuff Aaron do. There's stuff that other guys do that you're just like, ugh. And listen, every year in the league is different. Every year in the league is different. Mahomes is doing a lot more to keep that Chiefs team above float, but that's also leading to him making more mistakes. That's just part of it. Like, it just depends on the season and what your team is. Whatever your team is can dictate what your quarterback needs to do. And right now, Michael Penix is not being asked over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns a game. They just want him not to create turnovers, hit the big play when it's there, help move the ball, and we should be fine. And if that's the case, then why are we critical? Yes, could he have played better in the second half? Absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with that. But at the same time, I don't think this, when people are trying to say he's not, it's just, to me, it's people who come out and say that are people who already were kind of iffy on Penix before he got the play at the start. And now it's just like for them, like, oh, well, he hasn't really changed my opinion because he hasn't done anything special to change my opinion. So I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm out, or I'm not sure about him. But I think the Falcons are still very just as confident. And Penix knows he has to fix some things. He has to change some decision-making. But at the same time, he still can make that big throw. He can still make that big play. Listen, him and Drake have a special connection right now. His most important connection with a receiver is his number one receiver, and his number one receiver is balling out right now. And then we also have to take into account, he hasn't had Darnell Mooney majority this year. So, and Ray McLeod, which I'll talk about in a sec, didn't play, healthy scratch. So your third receiver is David Stills. And I mean, David Stills had a great camp, so I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like he's a scrub. And he's been great in run blocking. But like, I don't think Zach Robinson's over here game planning to get David Stills involved. in the game, like in terms of the passing game. Like literally, if you looked at what they did a lot of Bijan in the slot yesterday. They did a lot of Pitts, Bijan, Drake, and Stills. That's what they did a lot of. Or they did a lot of Drake, Bijan, Pitts as when they did 3 receiver sets, and then Charlie Warner in the backfield. That's what they did. Because clearly, like I said, David Stills not a big part of what they think of their passing attack. And could that change? Absolutely. But you've seen a lot of people kind of talk about the Falcons need to go get a receiver, which I do want to touch on real quick, because I think a lot of people, it's interesting seeing what people are asking the Falcons to go after, because I feel like everybody wants to go after a number one receiver. And I'm like, guys, I don't think the Falcons have the compensation to give up for a number of receivers want to pay one right now, because they got Drake's contract coming up. So I don't think they're trying to add a number. Like y'all talking about Jalen Waddle. I was like, brother, I don't think, listen, if they could get him for super cheap and somehow not have to pay him, sure. But if they make a trade for a receiver, it's going to be a guy who's just solid. He ain't going to be a star. He'll just be a solid receiver who can play. It's not going to be some star receiver. Because really your big issue is if Darnell Mooney isn't healthy, who's filling that gap? Especially with Ray now being shaky, right? So you may just want a receiver more for your number 3 spot who can play number 2 if needed. Because like I said, with Ray McLeod, who I mentioned, I've said this on the show last episode, Ray's been struggling this season. He has. He's their worst run blocker. So that's why I think a lot of the screens and stuff don't work, because he's not a good lead blocker, and that shouldn't be what he does. But he's also dropped some passes, and he's just struggled this year. And so the fact that he was a healthy scratch after a bye week tells me something's off, something's going on. And Raheem said that Ray has to compete for a game day spot. So he's now back in you got to compete to make this, to play on this game. That speaks a lot to what's going on with Ray McLeod. So, and I don't know if this means that he's on the verge of being traded, on the verge of being cut, on the verge of, I don't know what this means. I don't know if this is going to make the Falcons proactive at the trade deadline to get a receiver. I don't know. But they clearly got some stuff to work out there, and that can very much affect a quarterback's performance, knowing the only trustable, reliable target you have is Drake London, and then your next option is Kyle Pitts. Outside of that, your next receiver, if Mooney's out and Ray's not playing, is David Stills. And if I'm not considering Bijan in that. Because Bijan's the third option now. But it's David Stills. And then after that, who you got? Like, I'm always thinking we're going to see Cordell Hodge. We've barely seen Cordell Hodge on the field. So clearly the Falcons are keeping him off the field as a receiver. So, like, and Casey Washington. I haven't mentioned him, but yes, Casey Washington. I knew I was missing somebody. And Casey, I don't think Casey's a number 2 yet. I think he could be a 3 or a 4. The problem is when he's a number 2, you kind of see he kind of struggles. But when Darnell Mooney plays and he's playing, he's fine. I just think he's better in a 3-4 role. And look, because I've said, I'm fine with Darnell Mooney, and then Casey Washington is my number 3 receiver. And then Steele is my number 4 if that's what they want to go with. But I also understand if they want to try to get another receiver in the room. Completely get that. But that also could be impacting, Penix. Because remember, second half, his other tackle is out. So, and remember, there was a play, and I didn't see a lot of people tweet about this, but I don't know. But again, I'm looking at a lot of reaction after hour or two after the game. There was a play that near second pick he had in the red zone. Penix got hit because like literally that was either gonna be a pick or a sack. Like Penix had to pick himself up. Like that was a very quick decision he had to make. He just London boom, and so and obviously that probably cost him in a sack. So in that moment, I could see people being like, "Why are we throwing it in that situation?" Whatever, right? He got up and was holding his arm, like his arm was dangling a little bit, like my arm is like cooked. And then he stayed in the game, did handoffs, and then he kind of seemed fine as it kind of went on. But I was just sitting there when I was in the crowd, and I was just watching him, and I was like, is Penix good? Like, he's really grimacing a lot. Like, Kurt was on the field, like, do I need to take the snap? Because I don't think they're going to pass the ball. I just think it's like, hey, are you good? Like, are you, but if they were even considering passing the goal, I don't think you could have in that situation. So I haven't heard anything about it, so I'm assuming Penix is fine. But overall, I think, again, Penix has been average to above average. And right now, that's fine. I would be more concerned if he was in year 8 playing average, because that means that is what you are. You can see those higher ceiling throws and higher ceiling decisions with Penix. You just haven't seen it consistently. And we've seen in this league with multiple quarterbacks that you've seen, you just if you keep working with a guy, eventually they may be able to break through and eventually get to that more consistent level. So don't give up on a guy so quickly because they're not hitting it as soon as you want. So I think people need to chill out with that Penix talk, man. Like let's get through his first full year as a starter first, then make judgments on Penix. Trying to make that decision in game 6 of his in game 8 of his career, I think that's you're trying to jump the gun. It's one thing if he's throwing 3 interceptions every game. Then it's like, well, brother, you're a turnover machine. Oh my God. He hasn't done that. So why are we rushing the judgment so quickly? Let's let him keep cooking, man. Let him develop. Let him grow. Let him make mistakes. Let him try to respond. He had his worst game, came back with his best game. Like, that's what you want to see from a guy. So why are we trying to jump to judgments that he can't be the guy? Like dang, like this is the problem, bro. Nobody want to develop no more. Nobody want to cook no more, man. That's why we're losing recipes, man. Like let's let it flow, let it go. Like, why are you rushing it? That's the problem with y'all. Y'all want to rush everything. So like let Penix do his thing, man. Like, I'm not worried about Penix, man. But overall, like I said, offense did their thing. Bijan Robinson goated. MVP conversation. Drake London's looking like Drake. You know what I'm saying? Also, offensive line, commendable job. Another solid game against the Bills. They really came together, even with Jake Matthews out. And yeah, Penix just got to keep growing. So we'll keep going through the process. They have another Sunday night game. It's funny. I literally said, dang, I forgot they're playing on Sunday night. They play the San Francisco 49ers next week. That will be an interesting game. I think this is the first primetime game on the road this year. So they will be, 49ers and Falcons is usually always an interesting game between the two squads. And we'll see if we get some guys back this week. We'll see if Bowman can get back this week. Maybe Natron Brooks, Mooney. We'll see if he can get back. And, I know the 49ers have a lot of injuries as well. So it'll be interesting to kind of see, where both teams are going into that game. Because, Falcons have an opportunity to go 4-2 on the year. And then you got the Dolphins, who you should win. Falcons have a great opportunity right now. They can beat the 49ers to go 5-2 going into that Patriots game. The Patriots look better. And so that will put you at a good spot. And then you get Patriots and you get Colts, who are good teams. That could go either way. You get your get back game against the Panthers. Saints game, rivalry game. So I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like we're going to cook them. Jets should beat them. Seahawks should be a good game. Tampa Bay, huge game. Potentially that late in the year. Depending if you can keep pace with Tampa Bay, could be for division, very big division complications. Cardinals, Rams, and Saints. So Falcons have an opportunity because they're beating the teams that people think they're not going to beat. So if they keep that up, that can set them up for a good chance to make a run in the NFC, make the playoffs, and then we'll see what this team can do. But I think that's about it for me, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another Falcons episode. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. Definitely, follow me on Twitter at Bryce_2K if you want to talk to me there. And like I said, we'll continue our coverage of the Falcons season. We'll have my 3 things to look out for against the 49ers in a couple of days. See if we can get a game preview. I'm trying to get those back up for the games later in the week as well. My schedule's been kind of mixed around because of work. So we're going to try to do that as well. And we're going to keep doing our thing. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.